I still remember the sound of that phone ringing late one rainy evening, cutting through the hush of my modest home like a sharp blade slicing through silk, echoing off the thin walls and piercing the veil of my quiet solitude. It wasn't just a gentle tap or a modern chime that I could brush off. It shattered the quiet of my small kitchen like a lightning strike in a clear sky, stirring up memories I'd buried deep under layers of daily routine, quiet endurance, and the simple acts of survival that had defined my life for so long. I was folding laundry at my scarred wooden table, the one etched with scratches from years of meals and mending, humming softly to an old gospel tune my mama used to sing in her rich, soulful voice that could chase away any storm. I was trying to keep the gloom of the day at bay, the kind that seeps into your bones on a rainy southern evening like this one. The rain tapped rhythmically on my tin roof, persistent and unyielding, like fingers drumming on a window pane, urging me to listen, to brace myself for what was coming next, for words that would change everything in a heartbeat. The air was thick with the scent of chamomile tea steaming from my mug on the counter, a small comfort in a world that often felt too heavy, too unforgiving, mixed with the faint aroma of leftover stew from dinner, reminding me of the simple meals I'd cooked for so many years on a budget stretched thin. The name flashed on the screen of my old flip phone, the one with the cracked case from too many drops over the years, Derek, my only son. My heart, my light, my reason for dragging myself out of bed every morning, even when my bones ached from scrubbing floors on my knees, waiting tables with trays heavy as my worries, and lifting loads no woman my age should bear alone. Derek, the boy I'd raised through storms both literal and figurative, the one who'd been my anchor when the world tried to pull me under with its relentless tides of hardship, loss, and loneliness. The child who'd given me purpose when everything else crumbled around us like dry earth in a drought. "Hey, baby," I said as I picked up, trying to keep my voice light and warm, like the sun breaking through clouds after a long downpour, masking the fatigue that clung to me after a day of chores, errands, and the endless cycle of making ends meet. "You eat yet? I made some collard earlier. Wish I could send you a plate through this phone. Seasoned just the way you like 'em with a bit of smoked ham hock for that deep flavor." His voice came over the line, careful, hesitant, measured, like he was reading from a script he didn't quite believe in himself, each word chosen to avoid the sharp edges of the truth he was about to deliver. "Mama, about the wedding," I froze right there, my hands pausing mid-fold on a worn towel I'd mended more times than I could count, its threads frayed but still holding on just like me. My heart skipped a beat, fluttering like a trapped bird in a cage, anticipation mixing with a joy I hadn't felt in ages. "Oh, baby," I whispered, already picturing it all in my mind's eye. The flowers blooming in vibrant colors of white lilies and red roses arranged in bouquets, the music swelling with joy from a string quartet or maybe a gospel choir singing hymns of love, the laughter echoing through a grand hall adorned with twinkling lights and linen tablecloths, the long tables filled with family and friends sharing stories, toasts, and plates of soul food passed around with love and warmth. "You finally set a date. Tell me everything. When, where? I'll start looking for a dress right away, maybe something in soft blue to match your eyes when you were little, and I'll practice my dance steps for the reception so I can twirl you around one last time." There was a pause, long and heavy, the kind that carries bad news like a storm cloud gathering dark and ominous on the horizon, blocking out the light. Then a sigh, deep and weary, as if he were carrying the weight of the world on his young shoulders, shoulders I'd kissed 1,000 times when he was small. "Mama, Rachel and I, we think maybe it's best if you don't come." The words hit me like icy water poured straight from the freezer onto my bare skin, chilling me to the core, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the draft sneaking through my old window. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my grip tightening around the phone until my knuckles turned white against the dark plastic, aching from the pressure. "What do you mean, don't come?" "Derek, this is your wedding. Your mama's supposed to be there, front and center, watching her baby boy start his new life with the woman he loves, dabbing at my eyes with a handkerchief during the vows like I've dreamed about since you were born." He stumbled over his explanation, his words tumbling out like rocks down a steep hill, awkward and painful, each one landing with a thud in my heart that echoed through my chest. It's not that I don't want you there, Mama, it's just Rachel's family, they're high profile, you know. Big names in the city, doctors with fancy practices in high-rises, lawyers arguing in courtrooms with marble floors and mahogany desks, folks with money and connections that open doors I never even knew existed. It's a big wedding, fancy venue with crystal chandeliers dangling like stars and waiters in tuxedos serving champagne, black tie, and all that formality where everyone dresses like they're in a magazine. And I just don't want things to be awkward. You know how it is, with the way you talk with that southern drawl, your clothes from the discount racks at the thrift store, the stories you tell about the old days back home. They might not understand, might judge, and it could reflect on us. Awkward. That word lodged in my chest like a jagged stone, sharp edges digging in with every breath I took, every heartbeat pounding in my ears like a drum. Awkward because of me, because of the simple life I'd lived and scraped together, the calloused hands from years of labor in kitchens hot as ovens and laundries steamy with bleach, the modest clothes I'd bought from thrift stores where I'd haggled for every penny saved, the accent that spoke of my humble roots in the rural South, thick with drawls and idioms that city folks might find quaint or out of place in their polished world. I could picture it all too vividly now. Me in my best Sunday dress, the one with the floral pattern I'd sewn myself on my old machine, standing among silk gowns that cost more than my monthly rent check, diamond necklaces sparkling under the lights like cold stars, their eyes glancing my way with pity or disdain, whispers behind manicured hands about the country relative who didn't belong. But awkward, for him, my own flesh and blood, the child I'd carried for 9 months under my heart, nursed through fevers that burned hot, and cheered at every milestone from first steps to graduation. "I'll send you pictures, Mama," he added quickly, as if that could soften the blow like a bandage slapped on a deep, bleeding cut, his voice rushing like he wanted to hang up before the hurt fully sank in, before I could let out the pain bubbling up inside me. "And videos, too, from the ceremony and the first dance. It'll be like you're there, I promise. You can see every moment, hear the vows exchanged, watch us cut the cake with the fancy knife. Pictures. A photo can't hug you tight when the world feels cold and unforgiving, wrapping arms around you like I did when you were scared. Can't whisper lullabies to soothe a fevered child in the dead of night, rocking back and forth in a creaky chair that groaned with us. Can't wipe away tears from a scraped knee after a fall or share in the joy of a first step on wobbly legs in our tiny apartment, a first word stammered out with glee that made my heart burst, a first love that makes the eyes sparkle. Pictures are flat, lifeless things, memories frozen in time like insects in amber, but without the warmth of life, the scent of flowers in bloom, the feel of a hand squeezing yours in reassurance. I swallowed hard, forcing the lump in my throat down like bitter medicine that stuck going down, my voice steady even as my eyes blurred with unshed tears that stung like salt in a fresh wound. "All right, baby, whatever makes you happy. That's all I've ever wanted for you, from the day the doctor placed you in my arms, all red and crying." Click. The line went dead, abrupt and final like a door slamming shut, and just like that, he was gone, leaving me standing in the middle of my kitchen, the rain now pounding harder on the roof like it was trying to match the storm raging inside me, thunder rumbling distant but threatening. I didn't move for what felt like hours, gripping that phone as if it were a lifeline to the past we'd shared, the towel forgotten in a heap on the table, its folds undone like my composure unraveling thread by thread. Memories flooded in unbidden, wave after wave crashing over me with relentless force, pulling me under. Derek as a baby, his tiny fists clutching my finger with surprising strength as I rocked him through sleepless nights after his daddy left us high and dry, disappearing into the night with nothing but a scrawled note on the kitchen table saying he couldn't handle the responsibility, the bills piling up, the endless crying of an infant. Me young and scared out of my wits, working 2 jobs, cleaning houses by day with bleach burning my hands raw and red, waitressing by night in a dingy diner with sticky floors and rude customers. Just to keep food on the table like beans and rice, milk in the bottle for him, and a roof over our heads that didn't leak too badly during storms like this one raging outside. The scraped knees I bandaged with tender care after he fell off his second-hand bike on the cracked sidewalks of our neighborhood, the first day of school where I held his small, trusting hand tightly until the teacher gently pried him away with a kind smile, promising he'd be fine while my heart broke a little. The nights I held him close through thunderstorms that shook the windows and rattled the doors, whispering promises of love and safety while lightning flashed outside, illuminating his wide-eyed fear in stark white bursts. The pride swelling in my chest like a balloon ready to pop when he graduated high school on a scholarship I'd fought for tooth and nail, begging the school board in meetings where I felt small and out of place but spoke with a mother's fierce determination that wouldn't take no for an answer. And now he wanted me away from the happiest day of his life because I might make things awkward, because my presence didn't fit the polished, perfect image he and Rachel were crafting like a facade over cracks. I cried quietly that night, not the loud, wrenching sobs of my younger years that would echo through empty rooms and wake the neighbors, but the silent tears of a woman who'd learned to bear her pain in solitude, letting them fall unchecked onto the linoleum floor as the rain outside mirrored my sorrow drop for drop. Not for myself, really, though the rejection stung like salt rubbed into an open wound, burning deep and fierce, but for the bond I'd cherished so deeply, nurtured through every hardship like a fragile plant in poor soil, now fractured like a cracked mirror reflecting back a distorted image of what we once were, mother and son against the world, unbreakable. And then, in that quiet broken only by the rain's relentless drum on the roof and the occasional thunder rumble growing fainter in the distance, I felt a spark of resolve ignite within me, small at first like a match struck in the dark but growing steadily, warming the cold, numb places in my heart that had gone empty. I poured myself another cup of tea, the steam rising like a prayer ascending to the heavens I still believed in, curling in the air with the scent of herbs that soothed my frayed nerves and settled my shaking hands, and whispered to the empty room, my voice barely audible over the storm dying down, "This isn't the end of my story. This is the beginning of something new, something just for me, something that'll show the world what I'm made of." As the rain eased into a gentle patter, softening the night's sharp edges and washing the streets clean outside my window, I rummaged through the old wooden box in my closet, the one with the brass latch that stuck sometimes from age and humidity, filled with letters yellowed by time like old bones, photos faded but precious to my touch, and mementos from a life long past, each item a chapter in my own book. My fingers, rough from work, brushed against envelopes crinkled with folds and stamps from decades ago until I found it. A letter from Mr. Langford, postmarked over a decade ago, the ink still clear and bold despite the years gone by. He was a kind man, a successful businessman with a gentle demeanor and eyes that saw potential where others saw nothing, someone I'd met years earlier when I cleaned his office downtown, dusting his big oak desk and emptying trash bins filled with important papers while he worked late into the night on deals that shaped the city's skyline. He'd seen something in me back then, my work ethic that never quit no matter how tired I was, my quiet determination to do every task with excellence and a smile, and offered me a partnership in a small venture, a chance to invest what little I'd saved in a coffee can under the sink and build something lasting that could change my fortunes. At the time, I'd declined politely, my voice soft but firm as I folded my cleaning rag, thinking my duty was to my family alone, to Derek, who needed me more than any business dream ever could, his school fees, clothes, and dreams taking every spare penny and moment I had. But now, clutching that letter in my trembling hands under the dim light of my bedside lamp with its frilly shade yellowed from age, I saw it not as a missed opportunity gathering dust and regret, but as a door waiting to be opened wide, a path forward when the one I'd walked with my son had been barred shut. The words on the page, written in Mr. Langford's neat, slanted script, spoke of potential untapped, of turning ideas into reality with hard work and faith, and they resonated in my soul like a call from the Lord himself to action. I called him the next day after a restless night of tossing and turning on my lumpy mattress, sheets tangled from dreams of what could have been, my voice steady despite the butterflies fluttering wildly in my stomach like moths around a porch light. "Mr. Langford, this is me, Auntie Me, as folks around here call me when they need advice or a listening ear. I'm ready now, sir. I want to build something of my own, something that matters to me and to others, something that helps heal the hurts I've known too well." He chuckled on the other end, his voice warm and familiar like an old friend's hug, carrying the weight of years but light with genuine enthusiasm that lifted my spirits. "Me, I've been waiting for this call for a long old time, ever since you turned me down with that polite smile. Let's talk details, come by the office tomorrow morning, and we'll map out a plan that suits you." 2 weeks later, after meetings in his polished office with views of the city skyline stretching out endless like promises yet to be kept, buildings tall and gleaming under the Georgia sun, I stepped into a neglected building downtown that he'd helped me acquire, its facade cracked and weathered by time, neglect, and the elements. Vines climbing the brick walls like desperate fingers grasping for life and light. The air inside hit me first, musty and thick with dust that danced in the faint beams of sunlight filtering through boarded-up windows cracked with age, the faint echo of forgotten stories whispering from the empty halls like ghosts of former tenants. Windows were sealed with plywood splintered and warped, floors creaked under my sensible shoes with every cautious step like protests from old, tired wood, and walls bore the scars of years without care or love, paint peeling in long, curling strips, graffiti faded but still defiant in corners dark and shadowed. But as I walked through those empty rooms alone at first, my footsteps echoing lonely and determined, I could see it clear as day, not the ruin that others might dismiss as a teardown, but the potential bursting beneath the surface like a flower pushing through concrete, waiting to be uncovered and nurtured. Laughter echoing in the halls that would soon be filled with voices of hope, lives being rebuilt one brick at a time, one heart at a time by women like me. My own heart swelled with a vision so vivid it brought tears to my eyes right there in the dust. This wouldn't just be a hotel for weary travelers passing through on interstates. It would be a sanctuary, a safe haven for women like me, single mothers juggling jobs and kids with no help, abandoned wives left to pick up the shattered pieces of dreams broken, girls left to fend for themselves in a world that could be cruel and unforgiving, to find shelter from life's storms, skills to stand tall on their own 2 feet, and hope to light the way forward through the darkest nights. The contractors arrived soon after I signed the papers, a burly team of men in hard hats scratched from use and tool belts clinking with hammers, nails, levels, and tape measures, eyeing the place with skepticism etched deep on their weathered faces like the cracks running through the foundation. "Lady, this floor is rotted through clear to the joists. We can't restore it without tearing it all out, gutting the place and starting fresh from scratch," one said, a stocky man named Hank with a beard flecked gray and hands like bare paws, kicking at a loose board that splintered under his heavy boot with a sharp crack that echoed through the empty space. I stood tall right in the midst of the debris and dust swirling around my ankles, my hands planted firm on my hips, meeting his gaze without flinching or backing down an inch, my voice firm like the foundation I envisioned rising strong. "Every building tells a story, Hank, just like every person walking this earth does in their own way. This one has seen hard times, been neglected, abused, and forgotten by folks who moved on, but it deserves a happy ending, a second chance to stand proud and shine again. We'll fix it piece by piece, board by board, nail by nail, and we'll make it beautiful once more, stronger than it ever was before. Are you with me on this journey, ready to roll up your sleeves and build something real, or do I need to find me a crew of folks who believe in redemption?" There was a moment of silence, thick and tense as fresh-poured concrete. The men exchanging glances under their hats, sweat already beading on brows, then nods all around the room, a few grunts of agreement mixed with reluctant smiles cracking their tough exteriors. "All right, Miss Me," Hank said, tipping his hat, Let's get to work and see what we can make of this old girl. She's got good bones underneath. And then the work began in earnest, a symphony of transformation that filled the stale air with the sounds of renewal and rebirth. Days turned into a blur for me of hammers pounding rhythmic beats like heartbeats, saws whirring through wood with high-pitched whines that set my teeth on edge at first, and paint rollers slapping against walls with wet, satisfying slaps that covered the old scars. I was there every single day, from the first crack of dawn painting the sky pink and gold over the city, until dusk wrapped the building in soft shadows and streetlights flickered on. My hands blistered and sore from helping where I could, sanding rough wood until it was smooth as silk under my palms, choosing fabrics for curtains in soft, inviting patterns that evoked home, comfort, and peace, overseeing the installation of new plumbing that finally gurgled to life like a reborn stream after decades of silence and leaks. I hired women from my community to join the team and learn alongside me, women whose stories mirrored my own in ways that bonded us like sisters from the start. Maria, a single mother of 3 energetic boys with endless energy, who had lost her home to foreclosure after her husband abandoned them for parts unknown, her eyes tired from sleepless nights but fierce with a mama bear's protectiveness. Lena, a young girl barely out of her teens with a baby on her hip, who had escaped from an abusive relationship that left scars seen and unseen, her arms bruised at first but her spirit unbroken and hungry for change. And others like them pouring in as word spread, women who'd been knocked down by life's cruel, unexpected blows but were ready to stand up again, dust themselves off with trembling hands, and fight for better days ahead with me leading the charge. I trained them myself in hospitality skills with all the patience the good Lord gave me, how to make a bed with hospital corners crisp and tight so it looked like a magazine photo, how to greet guests with a smile that reached all the way to your eyes and warmed the soul like hot cocoa on a winter day, how to manage bookings and budgets with spreadsheets I learned fiddly on an old computer Mr. Langford donated. But more than skills for a job, I mentored them like a mother hen, listened to their stories over coffee breaks in the half-finished lobby where dust still hung in the air like a veil, shared my own tales of hardship, loss, and triumph to show them plain and simple that they weren't alone in their struggles, that pain could be the tough soil from which strength and beauty grew if you watered it with faith and effort. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast golden hues through the newly installed windows that finally let in light like a blessing from above, Lena approached me while I was on my knees scrubbing a stubborn stain, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand, her ponytail disheveled from a day of lifting heavy boxes of tiles. "Miss Me, why are you doing all this for us? You could just hire professionals with fancy degrees and big city experience and let them handle the heavy lifting. Why us broken folks? Why take this on now after all you've been through?" I paused right there on the floor, setting down my scrub brush in the bucket of soapy water that smelled of lemon cleaner, the white flecks of paint dotting my arms like stars scattered in a night sky. Because, child, I know what it's like to feel invisible in this big, bustling world, to be told you're not good enough for the table set with fine china, to be pushed aside like yesterday's newsprint blowing in the wind. This place isn't just bricks and mortar stacked high and cold, it's a chance for us all to rebuild from the ground up, brick by brick, dream by dream. For you to rise, for me to heal, for every woman who walks through these doors one day seeking refuge from her storms. We've all been broken one way or another, but together, with God's grace, we can mend stronger than before. She nodded then, tears glistening in her eyes like dew on morning grass after a rain, and hugged me tight right there on the dirty floor, her embrace fierce and grateful, holding on like I was the lifeline she'd been praying for. In that moment, the pain from Derek's call felt a little less sharp in my chest, a little more distant like an old echo, replaced by the warmth of purpose that filled the voids in my heart and soul. Mr. Langford visited often during those hectic, back-breaking weeks, his polished shoes clicking on the emerging tile floors that gleamed under layers of fresh varnish and wax, offering advice on permits that tangled like red tape, funding sources to tap, and encouragement when the days grew long and my back screamed from bending. You've got vision that sees beyond the surface dirt and grime, but vision alone isn't enough to build an empire or even a single room, he'd say, leaning on his cane with a twinkle in his eye. You've got heart, the kind that inspires loyalty, change, and folks to follow you anywhere, and that's what will make this place special, a landmark in this community for generations. Slowly, painstakingly, with sweat pouring down my back and tears mixed into the mortar we laid, the hotel came alive under our collective hands and hearts. Rooms were furnished with simple but elegant beds framed in wood we'd salvaged from the old structure and refinished with care, soft linens in calming blues and greens that evoked the serenity of a southern sea on a calm day. Walls adorned with photographs of resilient women from history who'd inspired me, Sojourner Truth standing tall and preaching freedom, Rosa Parks seated with quiet defiance on that bus. My own mama smiling from a faded snapshot taken in her garden back home, her hands dirty from soil but her eyes bright with unbreakable life. The lobby got a small library nook stocked with books for young dreamers like Derek once, was biographies of trailblazers who rose from nothing, career guides for the ambitious souls, stories of triumph over adversity that I hoped would inspire late-night reading and big dreams. A communal kitchen where guests could cook and share meals around a big table, fostering bonds over pots of gumbo simmering or batches of cornbread baking golden, the aromas filling the air with memories of home and family. Each detail I chose carried purpose deep in my bones, love from my heart, and hope for the future, a testament to what could be built from the ruins of neglect and pain, a symbol of renewal that made my chest swell with pride every time I walked through. But let me tell you, building wasn't without its trials and tribulations that tested my faith and resolve like never before. Budgets stretched thin like old elastic ready to snap with a twang, suppliers delayed deliveries with flimsy excuses that tested my patience to its absolute limits and had me praying for strength. And there were days when the weight of it all, the endless decisions, the unexpected setbacks, the sheer physical toll on my aging body, threatened to crush me flat under its load like a bug on the sidewalk. One night, after a particularly grueling day where a pipe burst in the basement without warning, flooding the area with murky, stinking water that soaked through boxes of supplies I'd saved for and required hours of mopping, pumping, and cursing under my breath, I sat on the unfinished stairs in the dim light of a work lamp, head in my hands, doubting everything from my grand vision to my own sanity in taking this on. "What am I doing here, Lord?" I whispered to the empty hall, the echo mocking me back. "I'm just an old woman with dreams too big for her britches. Who do I think I am to change anything in this hard world?" But then I thought of Derek, of the rejection that had sparked this fire within my belly. A flame that refused to be extinguished no matter how the winds howled, and I stood up slow, dusted off my knees with hands that trembled at first, and got back to work, calling the team for an emergency fix at dawn. Resolve, after all, is the quiet strength that carries us through the darkest hours when hope seems faint, the inner voice that says one more step, me, when our legs want to give out and collapse. As the grand opening approached with invitations, I printed myself on simple cardstock, but infused with my pride and joy. Word spread through my community like wildfire jumping on dry grass in summer, carried on whispers in churches after Sunday service, at markets where I shopped, and in beauty salons where women gossiped and shared. Women came knocking, seeking jobs, shelter, a fresh start from lives that had derailed them like trains off tracks, showing up at my door with hopeful eyes shining through tiredness and resumes clutched in nervous, shaking hands. I welcomed them all with open arms and a hot cup of coffee, offering not just employment to pay the bills but classes in financial literacy taught by volunteers from the local bank who saw my vision. Resume building workshops where we practiced interviews until confidence shone through like polished shoes, even self-defense sessions led by a local instructor. A woman named Carla who'd survived her own hell and now taught us to fight back. The hotel named Me's Haven in bold letters I painted myself above the entrance door fresh and welcoming, became more than a place to stay for the night with a soft bed. It was a beacon in the neighborhood, a life rebuilt brick by brick from the ground up, a testament to the power of community, faith, and second chances given freely. As the grand opening approached with invitations, I printed myself on simple cardstock, but infused with my pride and joy. Word spread through my community like wildfire jumping on dry grass in summer, carried on whispers in churches after Sunday service, at markets where I shopped, and in beauty salons where women gossiped and shared. Women came knocking, seeking jobs, shelter, a fresh start from lives that had derailed them like trains off tracks, showing up at my door with hopeful eyes shining through tiredness and resumes clutched in nervous, shaking hands. I welcomed them all with open arms and a hot cup of coffee, offering not just employment to pay the bills but classes in financial literacy taught by volunteers from the local bank who saw my vision. Resume building workshops where we practiced interviews until confidence shone through like polished shoes, even self-defense sessions led by a local instructor. A woman named Carla who'd survived her own hell and now taught us to fight back. The hotel named Me's Haven in bold letters I painted myself above the entrance door fresh and welcoming, became more than a place to stay for the night with a soft bed. It was a beacon in the neighborhood, a life rebuilt brick by brick from the ground up, a testament to the power of community, faith, and second chances given freely. Then came Derek, his arrival like a bridge mending a deep chasm I'd feared was permanent. He'd heard whispers of my work through mutual friends who couldn't keep quiet, the kind who shared a good story over coffee or at family gatherings when paths crossed. Tales of Auntie Me's miracle downtown rising from nothing. One afternoon, as I was arranging fresh flowers in the lobby vase I'd found at a flea market, their petals soft and fragrant with life, the door swung open with a cheerful chime I'd installed myself, and there he stood, tall and handsome in his pressed shirt and slacks that spoke of his new city life. Eyes wide with surprise as he took in the transformed space, the polished floors reflecting the sunlight, the walls alive with art from local women, the air filled with the scent of fresh-baked bread from the kitchen where Maria was testing recipes. "Mama, you did all this? This place is incredible, like something out of those home magazines Rachel reads." I wiped my hands on my apron tied around my waist, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest, but my voice steady as a calm sea after the storm. "Yes, baby, but it's not just for me. It's a labor of love poured out for everyone who needs a second chance, a hand up when life knocks them down flat on their face. Come on in, let me show you around every nook and cranny." He followed me through the rooms, his footsteps echoing on the floors we'd laid ourselves with sweat and precision, watching as women bustled about with purpose I'd instilled, Maria teaching a young girl how to fold linens with precision and care, her instructions patient and encouraging like a big sister. Lena answering the phone at the front desk with newfound confidence that made me beam, her voice professional and warm as honey. I didn't know you had this in you, Mama," he said, his voice soft, almost reverent, as we paused in the garden out back where herbs grew in neat rows under the sun I'd planted with my own hands, their leaves brushing our fingers with green freshness. "All these years I thought you were just surviving day to day, scraping by like always." "Surviving is the foundation we all build on, Derek, my boy," I replied, leading him to a bench under a blooming magnolia tree, its petals white and pure like fresh snow, sitting down with a sigh. "But thriving, that's what we construct on top, layer by careful layer with love. I did this for us, for the family we could be if we let go of pride and embrace what really matters. Love that don't judge, compassion that heals, the ties that bind us beyond blood and fancy clothes." He sat on the bench beside me, head bowed low as if the weight pressed him down, the weight of his words from that rainy night hanging between us like thick fog, obscuring the view but not erasing it forever. "Mama, about the wedding, I was wrong, so wrong to shut you out like that. Rachel's family, they made me think appearances were everything that counted, that fitting in meant cutting out what didn't match their idea of perfect. But seeing this place you've built, this is real strength, the kind that builds up people instead of tearing 'em down. Strength is quiet and unassuming, son, I told him, taking his hand in mine just like when he was small, feeling the familiar warmth that transported me back. It's persistent like a river carving stone, enduring through the nights when doubt creeps in like a thief. It's every act of love given freely, every sacrifice made without fanfare or expecting thanks. It's getting up when you're knocked down flat, not because you have to just survive, but because you choose to for something greater than yourself. Over the following weeks, as the hotel buzzed with new guests checking in and the foundation's programs took root deep in the soil, Derek became a regular presence at me's haven, his car parked out front more often than at his own fancy apartment. He volunteered his time selflessly without me asking, mentoring the young boys who came tagging along with their mothers, teaching them basic computer skills in the small tech corner I'd set up with donated laptops and software from his work friends, his patience infinite as he explained coding like storytelling around a campfire. He observed the women's stories with an open heart finally cracked wide, listened to their struggles over shared meals in the communal dining room where plates clattered and stories flowed, and slowly, Lord how slowly, I saw the change in him. The softening of his once rigid edges sharp from city life, the humility blooming where arrogance had once taken root like stubborn weeds in a garden. He brought Rachel one day not long after, her high heels clicking uncertainly on the floors we'd polished to a shine with elbow grease, her eyes wide as saucers as she took in the place from top to bottom, from the cozy reading nooks with lamps glowing soft to the bustling kitchen alive with chatter. "This is amazing, Miss Me," she said, her voice genuine for the first time I heard it, laced with awe and a touch of shame. "Derek told me bits and pieces over dinner, but seeing it in person, you've created a miracle here out of nothing but heart and hard work." "Not a miracle, child," I replied with a smile that crinkled the corners of my eyes lined from years of squinting in worry, leading them to the kitchen where pots simmered on the stove with aromas that made mouths water. "Just hard work every day, a lot of faith in the Almighty, and the belief that everyone deserves a fresh start no matter how many times they've fallen. Come, help me out, we're making peach cobbler today from my grandmother's recipe passed down. The kind with cinnamon and a touch of nutmeg for that warmth that hugs your soul." As they helped peel ripe peaches with juices running sticky on fingers, mix the batter with wooden spoons stirring in unison around the bowl. Laughter filled the room for the first time between us, bridging the gaps that had once seemed insurmountable like Grand Canyons. Rachel opened up about her own pressures over the flour-dusted counter, her hands pausing as she spoke, growing up in a world where image was everything shiny on the outside, where love was conditional on success, perfection, and never showing weakness, her family's expectations a constant shadow looming large. "I pushed Derek because I thought that's what family expected of us, to uphold the facade and not let cracks show," she confessed, her voice breaking a little on the words. "But this place, this is what family should be, real people, supportive arms, full of grace for imperfections and scars." The wedding day arrived sooner than I could have imagined, the sun shining bright outside like a divine blessing on their union, but tension simmering beneath my skin like a pot about to boil over with unspoken words and old hurts. I dressed carefully that morning in my small bedroom with the peeling wallpaper, choosing a black satin gown I'd bought with my first earnings from the hotel consultations. A simple but elegant piece that hugged my figure with the grace God gave me, its fabric smooth against my skin marked by life. Pearls glinted softly at my neck, a gift from Mr. Langford symbolizing wisdom hard-earned and resilience, and I pinned my graying hair up with a brooch that had belonged to my mama, its silver intricate like the winding paths of my life. Standing in front of my mirror with its slight crack running diagonal, I saw not the tired woman who'd cried alone in her kitchen months ago, but a force to be reckoned with, a survivor ready to face whatever came my way, head held high and heart open despite the scars. Walking into the grand hall where the ceremony was held, with its high ceilings painted gold and chandeliers sparkling like 1,000 stars above. Whispers followed me like shadows trailing my steps, Rachel's family glancing my way with raised eyebrows arched high in surprise, their silk dresses rustling as they shifted in seats. Murmurs rippling about the unexpected guest in satin, but I didn't shrink back or hide in the shadows of the back row. I held my head high, my steps measured and confident on the carpeted aisle soft under my heels, taking a seat near the front with quiet dignity that came from knowing my worth. Derek spotted me from the altar decorated with flowers, his face paling white as a sheet with shock, then softening with a mix of surprise, guilt washing over, and relief that flooded his eyes like tears held back. "Mama," his voice trembled as I approached after the vows were said and rings exchanged, the room buzzing with post-ceremony chatter, clinking glasses and flashes from cameras. "Hey baby," I said, pulling him into a hug that smelled of his fancy cologne Sharp and my lavender soap Gentle from home, holding him close for a moment that stretched eternal. Wouldn't miss this for the world, no matter what was said before. Rachel's gaze sharpened like a knife edge, suspicion flashing in her eyes made up perfect, her perfectly manicured hands clutching her bouquet of roses tight as thorns. I didn't expect you to come, Miss Me. Derek said we agreed on the plan. Life doesn't always follow the plan we set out so carefully with lists and worries. I interrupted gently but firm, my voice steady as a rock in a rushing stream, unmovable by currents. But it can still be beautiful if we let it unfold with grace and forgiveness. Congratulations, child. You look radiant like a bride straight from the Lord's own garden. The reception was a whirl of toasts raised high with bubbly champagne, dances swirling on the polished floor to music from a live band playing sweet melodies, but my presence had shifted the room's energy like a gentle breeze changing the direction of sails on a ship. Guests approached me curiously after, admiring my grace under their scrutinizing eyes, my calm amid the opulence that surrounded us all like a dream, whispering questions about the hotel they'd heard rumors of through the grapevine of society pages. "You're that Auntie Me everyone's talking about, aren't you? The one rebuilding lives downtown with that haven of yours," one woman asked, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she extended a hand gloved in lace. I nodded, smiling warmly from the heart. "That's me, dear. Come visit sometime soon. We've got room for everyone who needs a little light in their day and a warm bed at night." Later that evening, as the stars emerged over the city like diamonds scattered on black velvet sky, Derek came to the hotel unannounced, his knock on the door soft but insistent like a heartbeat. He found me in the garden I'd nurtured, tending to the roses that had just begun to bloom under my careful pruning, their thorns pricking my fingers but their petals soft as silk. His hands trembled as he sat beside me on the bench weathered by time and rain, the air sweet with night jasmine blooming nearby in the cool evening breeze. "Mama, I don't know what to say that can make it right. I've been such a fool, blind as a bat to what you've built here." "Say nothing for now, baby," I replied, pruning a thorny stem with care using clippers that snipped sharp in the quiet. "Just see with your eyes and heart. That's enough to start the healing." I told him the stories then, the ones that had fueled the hotel's creation from a mere idea in my head to this reality. Maria's escape from a bad marriage that had left her bruised in body and broken in spirit, her children now thriving in school with new uniforms, books, and confidence. Lena's journey from fear that kept her looking over her shoulder every minute to independence that let her walk tall down the street, now managing the front desk with poise, a smile for every guest, and dreams of her own business. The countless others who had passed through our doors like ships in the night, leaving stronger than they arrived, armed with skills, hope, and sisters in arms. He listened intently, his eyes widening with each tale of resilience and comeback, understanding dawning like the sun rising slow after a long, dark night, illuminating the shadows that had clouded his judgment. "Mama, I see you now, truly see you for the force of nature you are. I've been blind, chasing what I thought was important, status that fades like morning mist, approval from people who don't know my story or yours. But this is what matters eternal, this legacy of love and lifting others. I've always seen you, baby, through every phase, every mistake, every triumph. Always, I whispered, pulling him close in the moonlight, feeling the years melt away in that embrace, mother and son reunited in spirit and truth. The hotel and its foundation flourished in the months and years that followed my bold step, growing beyond my wildest dreams into a network of support that extended arms across the city and beyond. We expanded with additions I funded from grants and donors who saw the good. Workshops on entrepreneurship where women pitched their business ideas with passion firing their voices. Counseling sessions for trauma led by licensed therapists who volunteered their time and expertise. Even a small daycare for working mothers with colorful toys, crayons, and caring staff who loved the little ones like their own. Derek volunteered regularly without fail, his tech skills from his job helping set up online classes for remote learning when folks couldn't come in person, his presence inspiring the young men who saw in him a role model who'd learned from his own falls and emerged wiser, kinder. Rachel joined too after some time, her initial hesitation melting away like ice in spring to reveal passion as she organized art therapy sessions in a dedicated room filled with canvases, paints in every color, and easels, her own hidden talents blooming like the garden under the sun we'd planted together. Years passed in a rich tapestry of joy woven with threads of challenge that kept us strong. Derek and Rachel married in a simple but heartfelt ceremony right at the hotel, surrounded by the women who'd become like extended family to us all, their vows echoing with sincerity under the floral arches we decorated ourselves with flowers from the garden. They brought children into the world soon after, my grandchildren, blessings with Derek's curious blue eyes and my unyielding spirit that showed in their giggles and determination to explore. I watched them play in the garden, chasing butterflies with nets and picking flowers to make crowns, teaching them the same lessons of kindness, perseverance, and the deep importance of roots that run strong even in rocky soil, their laughter a balm to old wounds that had long since healed into scars of strength and stories. I often sit on the veranda now in my rocking chair, tea in hand steaming hot, listening to the ocean waves if I close my eyes tight and imagine the sound beyond the city noise humming distant, though the urban hum of cars and life surrounds me with its energy. I think of my life as it unfolded, the hardships that shaped me like a potter's hands on wet clay, molding me tough, the triumphs that define me like mountain peaks climbed with bloodied hands, the love that endured through every valley low and storm fierce. I whisper to the wind that carries my words away into the night, carry love far and wide across this land, stand tall in the face of adversity crashing like waves. Keep faith as your guiding compass through fog. Never forget the courage within you, burning like an eternal flame in your soul. Because life ain't measured by applause that fades quick, wealth that can slip through fingers like sand, or recognition fleeting as a shooting star. It is measured by impact profound and lasting, the lives touched gently with a kind word or hand, hearts lifted high from the pits of despair, hope restored anew like the dawn breaking after the longest night. I have lived fully, embracing every moment good and bad. I have loved deeply, without reservation or regret. I have built enduringly, stone by stone with my own hands. My story, our story together, echoes in the hearts we touch daily and the legacy we leave behind for generations to come, a testament to what one woman can do with faith and fire. I am Auntie Me. This is my life rebuilt from the ashes of pain, my love unconditional and boundless as the sky, my legacy eternal and ever-growing like the roots of that old magnolia tree. Now to expand this even deeper into my past and the ripples that spread, let me take you back further, because my story didn't start with that phone call. It rooted way down in the red clay soil of Georgia, where I was born in a small town with cotton fields stretching like white seas under the hot sun. My mama raised me and my 3 siblings in a house with a leaking roof that dripped during rains, singing hymns while scrubbing laundry for white families in town to make ends meet. Daddy left when I was 5, a shadow of a man who promised the moon but delivered nothing, leaving Mama to fend alone. I learned early the value of hard work, helping with chores before school bell rang, my small hands raw from picking vegetables in our patchy garden or mending clothes by candlelight when electricity was cut. School was my refuge where teachers saw my quick mind and encouraged dreams beyond the fields, but poverty clipped those wings short, and I married young at 18 to Derek's father, a charming man with a smile that hid his unreliability, working odd jobs but spending more on liquor than bills or us. Our marriage crumbled when Derek was 2, the night his daddy packed a bag in the dark and vanished, leaving a note on the table, "Can't do this no more." Broke my heart, but I picked up the pieces, moved to the city with a suitcase and my baby boy, found work cleaning, then waitressing, days blurring into bus rides home late, diaper changes by lamplight, forced smiles for tips that barely covered rent. Raised Derek in a one-bedroom where walls were thin as paper and neighbors argued loud, but love filled it, bedtime stories from library books borrowed free, lessons in manners drilled gentle but firm. Always look folks in the eye, baby, I'd say, shows respect and strength. The hotel's construction was a whole saga of setbacks that tried my soul and victories sweet as honey. First month a storm flooded the basement unexpected, ruining materials I'd saved months for. I rallied the team with homemade soup simmering and words. Storms pass, but what we build lasts eternal. Suppliers shorted orders with lies, budgets ballooned from wiring chewed by rats in the walls. I negotiated fierce, drawing on haggling at markets for groceries. Sourced furniture from auctions cheap, refinishing late nights, fingers stained varnish but satisfied. The women became sisterhood. Maria shared Mexican recipes, turning kitchen cultural hub with spices and stories. Lena's drawings adorned walls, talent blooming under my praise and encouragement. Weekly meetings turned support circles, tears over coffee strong, laughter following as bonds formed unbreakable. Derek's change came gradual like seasons turning. Visits awkward at first, him in suits amid chaos, but painting walls beside me, listening, empathy grew roots. One day over lunch of sandwiches, he confessed, "I was ashamed of our past, Mama." Rachel's world perfect, no struggles, but empty without real heart. I nodded wise, scars show we've lived full, badges of honor worn proud. Grants funded more rooms, media stories brought donors generous. Women left empowered, Maria opened catering business feeding events, Lena art school on scholarship I helped secure. Grandkids learned at my knee, stories passed like heirlooms. Derek shifted career to nonprofit, inspired by my fire. Later years, I traveled speaking at conferences, voice carrying wisdom earned hard. Rebuild not just buildings cold, but spirits warm, I'd say to crowds hanging on words. Legacy, network of havens across states, lives changed countless, love multiplied exponential.